I have always been drawn to the stories that make you check the locks twice. The ones told in hushed tones around late-night fires, or found in creased journals detailing encounters that defy all logic. From whispering ghosts in abandoned hallways to shadowy encounters in quiet woods. These are the tales of terrors that lurk just beyond the edge of our vision. So turn the lights down low and get ready to confront what goes bump in the night. You're listening to Don't Whistle to the Wind. On this episode, we only have one tale to tell. It was submitted to me by a close friend, and the title is Eyes on You. Mia Blackwood rushed her way across campus, doing her best to dodge students, faculty, and the occasional security guard. It was the first day of the semester and she was running late. Something unlike her. She pulled her phone out of her pocket to double-check her schedule. The last thing she needed was to end up in the wrong class. West Building, room 1408. Of course I had to have class there this semester, she muttered, rolling her eyes as she squeezed between two students, standing in the middle of the path. She'd inquired with the security outside her dorm how to find the building, but in her rush she was having trouble even accessing that memory. She vaguely remembered needing to make a left turn somewhere. Her gaze fell on her phone once more, 9:14 a.m. Son of she didn't finish her curse as she picked up the pace. Damn it, Priya, that's the last time I let you drag me to a party on a school night. She could hear Priya's voice in her head. I didn't make you down all that tequila, Mia. And she'd be right, an annoying trait of hers. Mia took a shortcut through a quiet courtyard, avoiding the crowded main path. A colossal statue loomed ahead, a stark and unsettling presence. Its darkness suggested that someone had carved it from nothing but obsidian. The figure, a man whose features were indistinct, seemed to beckon, offering a false promise of comfort. His face, tilted upwards, wore a disconcerting blend of a smile and a sneer. Mia slowed down and narrowed her eyes. Why aren't you just the creepiest welcome sign ever? She approached the statue. It unsettled her, but she couldn't explain why. She squinted at the plaque that rested at the bottom of the statue. Headmaster Percival Langstrom. The name rang a bell, somewhere distant in her mind. Her eyes met the statue's. Is it looking at me? She blinked. No. The statue was looking out towards the heart of campus. Of course it was. She snapped her fingers. Yes. Left at the stone ego trip, she said. Well, those weren't the security guard's actual words. She was paraphrasing. Peering to her left, Mia spotted it concealed behind the trees. She left the headmaster's statue behind. She was short on time and refused to let another old man leer at her. Still, she turned around as she walked away, looking at the statue's eyes, making sure one last time. The unease didn't leave. Yeah, she muttered. Completely normal and not cursed statue. She checked out the west building in front of her. It stood out from the other buildings on campus. It looked like something created in the Victoria era. Higher up, she observed that construction was underway. Why not just condemn the damn thing? The way to the front door surprised her. Okay, rude, she grumbled, pushing with more force than she had ever expected it would need. The door groaned open on rusty hinges, protesting with a shriek that echoed through the building. A sound that seemed to mirror its displeasure at her lateness. Inside, the air felt heavier, much colder than it was outside. The sleek, minimalistic interior surprised her, a stark contrast to the aged, weathered exterior. It seemed there was an attempt to bring this building up to 21st century standards. Mia slowed down to explore the halls. The building, at least the entrance, was empty. She didn't hear any voices or the shuffle of people. It was just silent. Creepy old building and nobody in sight. All that's missing is Myers, she spoke. A sign on the wall caught her eye. Rooms 1000 to 1300 to the left, rooms 1400 to 1600 to the right. The hallway she needed to walk through had flickering, fluorescent lights overhead. And of course it's down the horror hallway, she muttered, shifting her bag on her shoulder. Rushing down the hallway, she peered into every room. 1402, 1404, 1406. All of them empty. Her footsteps echoed as she went deeper. Did I miss an evacuation notice or something? She paused right outside room 1408. There were people inside, which meant she was in the right place. Mia ran a hand through her hair, then tidied herself up. She didn't need to be late and look terrible. She took a breath. Don't make a scene. Just find a seat. Blend in. The classroom was indifferent to her arrival. Many of the seats had students already planted in them, paying attention to the professor who was mid-lecture. She saw an empty seat near the back and slid in between students and chairs, finding her place in the middle of the row. The students in her row paid her no mind as she settled in. Good. She preferred it that way. Mia placed her laptop on the desk, ready to take notes. The professor was going on about evolutionary theories and something or other. Mia couldn't focus. There was a faint hum that buzzed in her ear. It bothered her ever so slightly, like when a mosquito is buzzing near one's ear. This wasn't a mosquito, however, nor was it the high-pitched buzz of electronics when they were malfunctioning. This wasn't digital or external. It felt internal, a tightening pressure in her chest, like a balloon inflating. She tried to shake it. Focus. But try as she might, Mia could not take her mind off of it. She looked to her side, trying to search for the cause. As she did, her eyes locked with someone else's. A guy, another student. He sat a couple of rows ahead and to her left. Now, a guy taking a glance at her would be normal. She knew she was eye-catching. But this guy had twisted his entire upper body towards her. This wasn't a casual look, nor was it someone trying to sneak a glance anymore. This was a full-on stare, as if she was the professor giving the class, and all attention had to be given to her. He looked almost frozen, like someone forgot to press play on him. He didn't have a phone in his hands, nor a laptop or a notebook on his desk. All he had was unbroken eye contact. Okay. So much for a quiet morning. Mia stared back at him. Her fighting spirit prompted her to make it clear to him that his behavior was not how to attract a lady's attention. She noted his eyes were a sickly blue, like patches of frostbite had marred his irises. To make it worse, he hadn't blinked this whole time. She expected him to look away, to give her a laugh, to play it off, give her some sort of catcall. Something. Anything human, but it didn't come. A knot formed in her stomach, and an icy dread washing over her as unease settled in. Who the hell are you? Mia knew she was bad with faces, but he didn't look familiar. She felt like she'd have remembered this guy. Besides, a normal person would have acknowledged that fact by now. She only looked back at his stubbornness, unwilling to let him see her unease. She looked at his face, noticing that his eyes were the least of his concerns. His skin was the color of wet ash, utterly pale and lifeless. Prominent bulging veins, purple and thick as earthworms, were visible on his face. The shadows from his high, angular cheekbones fell across his face, creating a stark, almost skeletal effect. She recoiled from his crooked nose, its angle suggesting a break that hadn't healed properly, or perhaps at all. A mere pale line, his mouth, stretched taut across his face. It gave off the impression that he hadn't used it in days. He kept staring at her, his eyes burning into her soul. Eventually, he made some sort of movement, not to break eyesight, or give the semblance of embarrassment for staring at her for so long. No. Instead, his lips parted, just a smidge. Not to speak, mind you, just because. His gray teeth, visible enough, were jagged and uneven. She couldn't determine if someone had filed down his teeth, or if nature shaped him that way. She noticed his jaw was far from normal, too. It seemed ready to fall off with the slightest touch. She spotted a small black smear that had crusted at the corner of his mouth. and she couldn't tell if it was from blood or something worse. His clothing fared little better than his face. Stains and wrinkles marred his clothes, as if he hadn't washed them since he first put them on. His clothing was incongruous. They seemed 2 sizes too big and too small simultaneously. But Mia had had enough of analyzing who this creep even was. "You got a problem or something?" she snapped. Nothing. No reaction. No movement. Not even a twitch. She looked around. Nobody else even seemed to notice her outburst or his staring. Perhaps everybody else was just pretending to not notice, or were they all just this invested in class? Was evolution this damn interesting? Whatever, she muttered, turning away from him, from his eyes, from the lingering stare. Mia cracked her fingers under the desk, forcing herself to focus on the lecture. She tried to become as invested as everyone else seemed to be. It's just some creep with a crush. Just the kind of crap I needed this semester. Wonderful. She tried to type some notes now that her attention shifted back to class rather than his piercing stare. The way she slammed the keyboard did little to hide her irritation. Even without looking at him, she could feel his stare, his eyes locked onto her. The sensation was like a splinter, small, sharp, and inescapable. His eyes revealed a feeling that went beyond simple infatuation. This felt almost hostile, as if he'd been waiting just for her. Luckily, relief came in the form of another student, another late person who looked like they had run a marathon just to make it to class. She felt for him. She understood that, and the best part? He sat in a chair that blocked her line of sight with the creepy guy. His gaze vanished behind the body of this new student. Mia felt like she could breathe again. The hum resumed the instant the gaze vanished. The pressure she felt before locking eyes with him. She wasn't sure if it had returned, or if she just noticed again. It felt like static caught behind her eyes. She couldn't concentrate for the rest of the class as hard as she tried. An hour later, the professor dismissed them, told the class to get their hands on the textbook and read some chapters before next week. Mia nodded along absent-mindedly. She glanced over to where he'd been. He had moved, not away, not shuffling out of class. Why would it be that simple? Instead, he was standing now, in the same spot. His eyes still hadn't moved. His attention was on her even now. She couldn't take it any longer. "You want a picture or something?" she barked from across the room. This time, heads turned. A couple of students froze mid-step. He still didn't react. His eyes didn't even flicker. She pointed directly at his eyes, pleased to have someone other than that creep noticing her. "This psycho has been staring at me for the whole fucking class." Fellow students glanced his way. Some made faces. Some chatted amongst themselves, and some laughed, thinking this had to be a joke or something. But even they recoiled at the sight of him, as if nobody had noticed him until she pointed him out. He looked so out of place in the room, and he still refused to look away or budge. Mia didn't wait a second longer. With more eyes on him now, she pushed her way through the crowd of students and stormed out into the hall. She didn't slow down after leaving the West Building. The air outside helped ease her nerves. She just needed some distance, away from that guy, from that stare. As she passed the statue of the former headmaster once again, she yanked her phone out of her pocket, her thumb scrolling down her contacts. Come on, she muttered as her phone connected. "Pick up. I need to talk to you, Priya. Right now." A few more rings later. "Do you know what time it is?" Priya mumbled. It sounded like the call had pulled her out of her slumber. "It's noon, Grandma," Mia snapped. "Ugh, this better be good." "It's like 2 hours too early for me to be conscious," Priya groaned. Mia chuckled, brief but welcome, especially after today. "Don't you have class?" "Not until 4. So this better be worth waking me up for, or I swear I'm kicking your ass." Yeah. Take a ticket," she said. "Anyways, thanks to someone, I woke up late for my class." "You're welcome, babe." Mia rolled her eyes as she continued. "I had to run my ass all the way across campus since I couldn't even find my bike key in the rush. You see, this is why I don't do mornings." "Ha, more like you don't do mornings because you're no different from a damn house cat." "A Persian, to be exact," Priya interrupted. "Anyway, I couldn't even find the place. You ever had class in the West Building? Thankfully, no. That place is ancient. On the verge of collapsing, but that's not the freaky part. Mia paused. Just for a second, like she needed to psych herself up just to tell the story. I get there, right? And there's this guy, an absolute walking corpse, who just stared at me the whole fucking class. He didn't even blink. But, was he hot though? What? Did you hear what I said? He looked like death dipped in bleach, Priya. I know you have questionable taste in men, but I don't think corpses are your type. Priya chuckled. You okay? Mia made it back to the women's dorm and stepped inside. I don't know. I just feel off. She made a face. Like I can't shake his damn stare away. And I have to go back to that class in 2 days. Well, if it happens again, report him. Seriously. To who? Those campus rent-a-cops? What are they gonna do? What they should do is throw every one of these creepy-ass guys in jail and throw away the keys. Maybe then half the shit on campus wouldn't happen. Mia sighed. I can handle myself, you know that. If he does anything more than just look, well, I know how to take care of myself. She opened the door to her dorm, dropped her bag, and face-planted into the bed. Hey, how about I come over later, Priya offered. We can watch a movie or something. Just get your mind off of it. Yeah, that sound... She froze. She heard that low, broken hum again. Faintly, but unmistakable. She looked around her room. Nothing. Just her regular, old room. Mia, you there? Priya asked, concerned. Mia didn't respond. She was looking out the window now, observing the old tree near the dorms. There he was, the guy from her class, the staring man. Did he follow me? He stood beside the tree, gazing upward at her window. Right at her. He remained rooted to the spot, a rigid statue with a face devoid of emotion. It felt like he was trying to burn a hole through the glass. She could feel his stare, the intent behind it, and it made her stomach twist. Priya, she whispered. He's outside. What? Who? The guy I just told you about, the freak show from my class. He's fucking outside my dorm, staring at me. Oh my god. Okay, just don't do anything. I'm coming over. Give me like 10 minutes. Mia nodded as if Priya could see her. Yeah, got it. She slowly backed away from the window, from him, from that stare. She sat on the edge of her bed and twiddled with her pocket knife. Thank you, legally questionable online purchase. She had no idea how to use it. She had no formal self-defense training, unless watching a couple of YouTube videos counted. Still, holding it in her hand made her feel safer, better, like if push came to shove, she'd have a chance. Eventually, there was a knock at her door, one that pulled Mia from her thoughts. She gripped the knife tighter. Who is it? She called out, hoping that the tremor in her voice wasn't that noticeable. Relief came in the form of Priya's voice. It's Priya. Open up. Mia stood up from her bed, shoving the knife back in her pocket, and opened the door. Behind it, Priya stood, her arms already out, pulling Mia into a hug. Her eyes drifted to the two behemoths behind Priya, both wearing varsity jackets. Priya? Oh, don't worry about Lucas and Herman. They're just here to help, she answered. The guys nodded at her in unison. She didn't feel safer with them standing in the narrow hallway. If anything, they made it smaller, more claustrophobic. Hey, she said. Okay, where is he? Priya asked, suddenly all business. Mia jerked her chin to guide them towards the window, outside, by the tree, standing there like a damn gargoyle. The three of them walked towards the window and peered out. The man stood out in the crowd, immediately attracting their attention. He stood motionless under the tree, eyes fixed on the window. His eyes refused to follow any of them. It was as if he was just searching for one thing and one thing only, Mia. Okay, he's fucking creepy as hell, Mia. Right? Lucas placed his hand on Mia's shoulder, an attempt at soothing her. Don't worry. We've got this. The two of them left the room. Mia's eyes narrowed at Priya. And what exactly do they plan to do? 'Cause unless one of them's a priest, I'm not entirely optimistic. Priya crossed her arms. They're just gonna teach him a lesson. I'm sure you aren't the first woman he's done this to. All right, Vigilante Barbie. Mia gave her a side eye. And where did you find these guys? Priya smirked. Oh, Mia, you know I just love making connections. Their attention shifted back outside the window as the two jocks had appeared, walking towards the man, who remained completely still. Lucas approached the man, standing up straighter, trying to look bigger than he already was. At first, it looked like he was trying to talk to him with fake friendliness, trying to get his guard down. No response. Herman backed him up, gesturing with his hands in irritation, but the man didn't acknowledge them. He kept his eyes fixed on Mia's window. Herman waved a hand right in front of the guy's face, not even a twitch. Lucas snapped. He slammed a fist into the man's stomach. The guy's body bent slightly from the blow, but his head didn't turn. His neck didn't jerk. His eyes stayed locked on Mia, as if looking away for even a nanosecond would kill him. What is wrong with this guy? Priya murmured. Mia didn't answer right away. She clenched her fingers around the windowsill. A moment later, her voice came out somewhat harsher. He's not fucking normal. Herman gave the man another punch, harder than the one Lucas had just laid on him. Despite that, nothing. No stagger. Not even a grunt. He just kept staring right at Mia, like she was a specimen under a microscope. Other students had gathered around. It was hard to ignore two tall jocks punching someone in broad daylight. Herman glanced back at the girls near the window, then back at Lucas. They exchanged a nod, then together, they shoved the man with all their might. The man toppled backwards onto the grass. Mia thought that had to have been it. These guys weren't playing around. He had to know when to back off. But no. The moment he touched the ground, he sat back up. Perfect posture and everything. Still staring up at her. Oh, come on, Mia hissed, backing away from the window. Is this guy made of rubber and nightmares? Priya's hand shot out and grabbed Mia's arm. Okay, that's it. I hate this. I hate this. They couldn't hear it, but they could tell that Lucas was shouting at the man now. But the man remained stubbornly unconcerned. Lucas's words washing over him like water off a duck's back. His gaze remained fixed on Mia at the window. The girls noticed two blue navy jackets coming towards the tree, the unmistakable sign of campus security. They stopped to speak to Lucas and Herman, doing their best to understand the situation. The two security guards then turned to the man and approached him with movements they clearly rehearsed before. The man ignored them as he did the jocks. No words, no movement, no expression on his face. It wasn't until they touched him, physically grabbing his arms, did he finally move. He went limp, passive as a broken puppet. He let the security guards pull him away without resistance. Still, his eyes never left Mia. Mia watched it all happen, bracing herself against the wall to keep herself upright. He turned his head, and only his head, as they pulled him further from view, just enough to keep her in his eyesight. The further away they dragged him, the more unnaturally his neck twisted, joints clearly bending farther than they had any right to, until they vanished around the building, and he was gone. She whispered, not to Priya, but just to herself, "Good riddance." Priya said nothing. She didn't need to. Yet Mia still felt the stare, like his gaze burned through anything in its path. The following day, Mia made her way across campus once again, to her calculus class this time. She walked with a stiffness in her step. Priya had relayed the information that Lucas uncovered. The guy wasn't a student or anyone. Campus security had banned him from campus, but bans were for people who gave a damn about rules. If this guy wouldn't, or couldn't, blink like a human being, why would a ban stop him? Despite campus security having removed him from campus premises, she still didn't feel comfortable or safe. She looked at everyone as though anyone might be him, tensing up whenever she saw a tall, quiet guy just outside her field of vision. Stopping right outside the classroom, she took a deep breath, and another. Just get this over with, she muttered as she pulled the door open, entering the room with faux confidence. She scrutinized each person, searching for him. Her eyes didn't find him. It should have made her feel better, but her shoulders remained locked in place. Mia slipped into a back corner seat, watching the door, half expecting him to appear at the window. Math was where she could feel at ease. Numbers played fair, and formulas didn't stare into her soul. She threw herself into the class, listening to the professor talk, taking notes, solving problems, burying the face in her brain under equations, until her gaze, almost against her will, drifted toward the window. There was someone standing in the distance just beyond the edge of the quad, beneath the shade of an old, skeletal tree. Her entire body tensed, going rigid before her mind could catch up. Her breath caught, a searing, ragged edge of pain slicing through her chest. The figure wasn't moving. They were simply standing there, facing her. He found me. That was her first thought. No logic, no proof, just certainty. She gripped her pencil so tightly it trembled. Then the guy outside lifted his hand, waved, not at her, at someone walking toward him, a girl in a red hoodie with earbuds in. He turned slightly to greet them, smiling like people do when they're talking about nothing important. The tension didn't break all at once. It cracked, piece by piece. He wasn't looking at her, hadn't even seen her. Just another student, just another person greeting a friend. Completely normal, forgettable. Mia exhaled slowly, but relief, true, warm, all-consuming relief, never arrived. It only eased, like a knot being shifted, not undone. Her fingers loosened around the pencil. She blinked and turned back to the board. But now, the numbers didn't look so sharp. The equations had blurred at the edges. Logic had lost a little of its shine. And somewhere, at the base of her neck, that awful feeling crept back in again, like she was still being watched. Maybe from behind the glass, maybe from somewhere else. You're spiraling. Chill, she told herself as she refocused on the numbers. The feeling only festered. The following walk through campus only heightened her fear. She kept expecting that this was the time she'd see him, that he'd be somewhere, watching her like before. Her eyes darted around, trying to find him before he did her. Every quick glance she caught seemed to linger on her a tad too much. Even a casual bump from a stranger made her clench her fist. She made for the nearest bathroom and locked herself in a stall. "Get it together, Mia," she hissed, pressing her hands against the cold metal door. "He's gone. They took him away. Relax." Repeating it helped her feel some control, even if she didn't believe it, not deep down. She understood the college wouldn't simply let him return, not for her, but for their reputation. Lawsuits. Now that made things happen. Not silly girls complaining about their safety. If their fear of legal trouble benefited her, so be it. She'd take whatever she could get. Mia flushed the toilet and went to wash her hands. She splashed cold water on her face. It helped her focus. She stepped back into the hallway, her spine a little straighter, her chin up, but her eyes still searching. Later that evening, Mia found herself at the campus gym, her usual spot to relax. Students packed the gym, sweating out their stress. She stepped into the noise and became another body in motion, trying her best to just blend in. She got onto the treadmill and ran. No stopping, no rest. 30 minutes passed. Anytime her mind drifted to think about that stair, she turned the music up, the heavy bass drowning out any thought that dared come up. Before she knew it, an hour had passed. Mia stepped off the machine. Her now damp shirt clung to her body and her lungs ached. It made her feel in control, like she could forget it all if she kept going. She headed towards the locker room, contemplating her post-workout meal. As she took her locker key out of her pocket, it slipped from her fingers and clattered on the floor. "Seriously?" she said under her breath, crouching beside the wall. As she reached for the key, she heard it. The hum. It was back. It was a low, close sound, almost as if it were right next to her ear. Her hand froze, mere inches from the key. The hallway between the locker rooms and the gym was empty. The clamor of the gym felt distant, like it was happening behind glass. She slowly turned her head toward the vent beside her, and a pair of familiar, unblinking eyes met hers. No. She could hear was his ragged breathing, like something sharp was caught in his throat. He shouldn't fit in there. The vent was barely 2 feet across, yet, somehow, there he was, limbs grotesquely folded, with joints bent at impossible angles. His fingers twitched. He resembled a mangled spider, making feeble attempts at movement. Even with his body broken and his face pressed to the slats, he stubbornly refused to look away. Terror gripped Mia, her muscles rigid, her breath catching in her throat. The world seemed to fade as she struggled to make a sound. She could only stare back at him. Behind her, the sounds of the gym continued, oblivious to what she was experiencing in this little hallway. She fought against her body's reaction, forcing her fingers to inch towards her key. "You're not real," she told herself, trying her best to make herself believe that. "You can't be." His smile widened, a knowing glint in his eyes that made her skin crawl, as if he could read her mind and knew she didn't believe them. She opened her mouth. The silence before her scream felt heavy and suffocating, stretching out endlessly, until a raw and guttural sound filled the air, a sound thick with terror and pain. Another student dashed out of the locker room. The girl spotted Mia. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked. Mia's voice caught once again. She could only lift her trembling hand and point it at the vent. The girl crouched beside her, leaning in to look. She screamed. Mia turned, her eyes widening. "You see him too, right?" The girl settled herself before speaking. "Yeah. Ugh, I hate rats. Disgusting things, aren't they? But at least it's in there and not out here, right?" Rat?" Mia asked. As she turned back to the vent, the man, his contorted limbs, the mechanical hum, the twisted smile, all gone. And in his place was a small, brown, ordinary rat. It sat there, nibbling away at something, without a care in the world. Mia stared at it, unblinking as if a single blink would cause the man to reappear. "Oh, hey," the girl said, holding something out. "This your key?" Mia blindly reached out to take the key. She couldn't bear to tear her side away from the vent. "Yeah. Thanks," she stumbled out. The girl chuckled. "Don't worry, that little guy isn't going to come out of there. You're safe," she said, already heading back to the locker room. Mia didn't feel safe, not in the slightest. She continued watching the rat until it finished its meal. It gave a sniff in the air, then disappeared deeper into the vent, its tail vanishing with a faint scrape against metal. She stared at the empty grate a second longer. Then she turned and hurried off to the locker room, every step feeling longer than it should have. A part of her could hear his breathing again, low and steady, like something exhaling from within the walls themselves. She wasn't sure it was real, or just an echo reverberating through her skull. It came and went, a ghost of a sound that burrowed under her skin all the same. This wasn't paranoia. She had a valid reason to be scared. This was instinctual, and it was telling her she knew what she had seen. Back in her dorm room, Mia sat at her desk, staring at her reflection in the mirror like it had answers it didn't want to give. The room felt heavier than normal, like the air had thickened, pressing in on her shoulders and chest, squeezing in the quietest of ways. Her gaze fell upon the weary lines under her eyes, lines that hadn't been there last week, or if they had, they were more honest now. Her fingers brushed across her cheek, tracing her skin as though testing whether it was still hers. She leaned in, eyes narrowing in on her features. Something shifted, and she felt it in her core. The lighting overhead flickered, just slightly. Her own eyes in the mirror didn't flicker back. Her pulse began to crawl faster without her permission. She didn't understand why she couldn't place what had changed. Her face looked the same, didn't it? But something about the way it sat in the glass felt displaced. As if she were watching someone else. As if something inside the mirror had been watching her first. Her skin began to itch, not from outside, but from within. In a blink, he appeared in the mirror. He stood behind her, simply watching as usual. She spun around as fast as she could and only found a dark, silent room. She let out a shaky laugh, more of a reflex than anything else. Chill. It's all in your head. Stress. Exhaustion. Probably because of the expired protein bar you just ate. She searched for rationality. Any rationality. The moment she heard the hum again, however, she knew rationality wouldn't cut it. It sounded familiar now, in the worst way possible. But it didn't sound like just noise anymore. She could hear a faint tune, as if he were attempting to hum a melody. She looked in the mirror again, only to find her reflection had vanished. In its place was his face, pressed close. In its place was his face, pressed close, dominating the glass. He tilted his head and his mouth widened once more, trying to imitate a smile. The expression failed to make it to his eyes. She watched his hand move. He lifted it slowly, the movement spasmodic. He pressed it against the inside of the mirror, like he wanted to push through it. Simultaneously, Mia sensed something brush her neck. She yelped and fell backwards, landing hard on the floor. She blinked. When she opened her eyes, she saw him pressed against the glass. It felt like he'd burst out of it at any second. Her body hit a cabinet as she scrambled backwards. Mia watched him as he pulled his head back. She knew what he would do next. He was going to smash the glass with his head, and she wouldn't wait to find out what happened if he did. With her hand sliding across the floor and her eyes fixed on the mirror, she searched for anything, anticipating his collision with the glass. She didn't care what it was. She grabbed it and hurled it with all the force she had. A sound like ice cracking underfoot echoed in the dorm. The mirror shattered and his face vanished. The mirror frame remained clung to the wall. Broken fragments of glass scattered across the floor and remained on the frame. Only her own reflection stared back at her within those broken fragments, but it lagged for the tiniest fraction of a second. A stutter in reality, as if the world was buffering. Almost instinctually, her fingers made for her phone. She didn't need to scroll or search. She just found Priya's name and pressed. It rang. When Priya finally answered, her voice was the complete opposite of what Mia was feeling. It was bright and unbothered. Mia, how are you holding up today? Mia's voice came out shaky. Not good, Pri. I keep seeing that man. Every fucking where. Priya's mood shifted as soon as she heard that. What? Where? I'll call the cops if he's stalking you. No, not like that. Mia shook her head hard. He's there. I can see him. But he's not there. Not really. He keeps showing up in places he can't be. And I think, she swallowed, I think I'm losing it. Where are you? In my dorm, she exhaled, surrounded by broken glass. But it's his face, Pri. It's burned into my mind. Priya's tone shifted again, softer this time, more concerned. All right, I'm coming over. Stay put. Give me 10 minutes. I mean it. Hurry. Mia's voice dropped down to a whisper. I don't know if I'm alone in here. The call ended and silence filled the room again. Just breathe, she told herself. She closed her eyes and saw his face. Just breathe. Just breathe. She repeated the words almost ritualistically. Mia buried her face in her hands. Her breathing had become erratic. She trembled. This didn't feel like just panic. It felt deeper than that. She curled in on herself, tucking her knees close, and remained that way for longer than she even realized. The minutes dragged on, his face watching her, a twisted affirmage stuck in her head. She didn't move. not even an inch, not until she heard the knock, a soft, precise tap. She looked up at the door, a wave of relief washed over her. Priya. Mia shot up, careful to not slice her feet on the pieces of broken glass that littered the floor. She couldn't bear the thought of being alone for a moment longer. She opened the door. Took you long? Her voice died mid-sentence. The familiar, soft, comforting face of her best friend wasn't behind the door. Instead, it was the worst kind of familiarity. He stood there, too tall for the frame, his shoulders hunched like he was bending himself just enough to fit. His clothes clung to him, damp and heavy, plastered with mud and smelling of stagnant water, as if he'd been dragged from a flooded basement. Her eyes found his face. Though he appeared human in every way, something felt deeply wrong, like someone had described a man to a blind sculptor. His eyes remained locked on her. They had opened wide, wider than they were before. There was a sense of calm behind him, as if he knew something she didn't. His mouth opened, just enough to let out a long, wet breath. The smell of decaying metal and something long rotten hit her. Mia slammed the door, or tried to at least. The door resisted her push, stuck fast on something soft and wet. His arm. She recoiled and slammed harder. The man left his arm there, seemingly impervious to the door's impact. As she prepared to slam again, the man, if that's what he was, shifted forward. His movements were unlike those of a living being. They stuttered. He moved too slowly, then too suddenly, as if a second too late he remembered how limbs were meant to work. His body blocked the doorway. His stare, unwavering and intense, remained on her. His mouth hung open slightly, his jaw listing to one side. Something leaked from the corner. It might have been spit, it might not have. Then came the sound, not speech, not breath, a gargled, sloshing sound like someone whispering through a clogged drain, but there was intent in it. His mouth moved again, slow and deliberate, as if he was dragging syllables up from someplace deep. He hissed. Mia's fingers twitched near the edge of the door, unsure whether to slam it or hold it steady. Then his hand came up. It rose with uncanny patience, drifting through space like he wasn't touching air, like the world was thicker for him. He pointed right at her face. Then he lunged, not fast, not brutal, but fast enough. His hand caught her by the jaw, fingers digging into her skin. His palm was clammy, soaked through with what felt like melting ice cream mixed with sweat. Mia gasped, tried to jerk back, but he held her firm. Head tilted like he was studying a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Ice-cold terror flooded her system, each vein constricting with the frigid dread. She clawed at his wrist, dug in with her nails, but his grip didn't loosen. His thumb moved slowly, brushing her cheekbone with a gentleness that felt wrong, as if he were carefully mapping a hidden bruise. "Let go," she breathed, voice barely audible. His fingers only curled tighter, his mouth twitched again. Something almost like a word escaped. Just as she opened her mouth to scream, a sharp, loud crack, the sound of something breaking, stopped her cold. The man's head jerked to the side when a splintered wooden chair, streaked with old paint, shattered against the back of his skull. He stumbled, more from surprise than pain, his hand torn from her face. "Get off of her," Priya shouted, rage and fear fighting for dominance in her voice. Mia fell, gasping, her cheek throbbing from his grip, her vision spun. "Priya," she gasped. Mia scrambled to find her things. She found her keys first, her fingers trembling as she fumbled to grip them right. Then the cold, familiar weight of her pocket knife met her palm. She made her way towards Priya, who was still standing in the doorway. As the man rose, he didn't turn towards Mia. For the first time, he looked at something, someone else. His eyes slid away from Mia like she'd ceased to exist. He saw Priya, and he moved, faster than before. A clean, Sudden drive, like something had finally woken up behind those two wide eyes. Priya barely had time to raise her arms before he was on her. His hands reached, not like a man trying to fight, but like something that takes, that claims. The man's hands closed around Priya's face, not to hold her, but to study her. With a piercing stare, his eyes devoured her face, taking in every feature. He let out a low grumble, the kind a person makes when displeased. He violently rocked his head, a twitch like a beast trying to shrug off a swarm of buzzing flies. With a single, brutal movement, he tossed her across the room as if she were worthless. The sickening thud of Priya's body hitting the far wall reverberated through the room, followed by the hollow thump as she hit the floor. Her limbs, stiff and cold, lay folded beneath her, unmoving. "Priya!" Mia screamed, but there was no answer, no groan, no movement, nothing. And then he turned. He faced Mia once more, and she felt the full weight of his attention settle on her again. Her pulse became a roar in her ears. Her legs screamed at her to run. She looked at Priya's crumpled form, a few feet away now, and whispered, "Thank you." The words were for her, for what she'd done, for giving Mia one more chance. Mia turned and sprinted down the hallway. She didn't dare look back. There was no need for her to do so. She heard him moving, his arms dragging against the walls as he ran, as if the world couldn't contain him. The dorm hallway blurred at the edges. Doors flew past. She burst through the stairwell door, taking the steps two at a time, sometimes three. The emergency exit sign bled red light over everything. Her hand grazed the railing. She pushed harder. Behind her, he followed, not winded, not slowed. Mia burst through the last door, the sudden chill of the night air a shock after the warmth inside. The campus was empty and silent. The lamplight barely touched the dark. She didn't stop to think. She made for her bike, still locked on the rack in front of the dorms, just where she'd left it hours, or maybe lifetimes ago. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the key, slipping it into the lock with shaky fingers, trying to keep her eyes ahead. Don't look back. Don't look back. She could hear him behind her, not close, but not far enough. That dragging, staggering, not quite human gait. The lock popped. She threw the chain aside, climbed onto the bike in one frantic, graceless motion, and kicked off hard. She pedaled like hell. No plan, no destination, only escape. Away from the dorm, away from Priya's still body, away from him. She didn't know where she was going and didn't care. The wind hit her face like a slap, shocking her lungs back into rhythm. In, out, in, out. The wheels hummed beneath her, the pedals a blur. This was something she could control. This listened to her. She leaned into turns, dodged cracks in the pavement, skimmed around forgotten trash bins and lampposts like they were obstacles in a race. As she flew past the boys' dorms, the East Building, the library, she didn't glance back once. There was no time. It felt good to move like this. It felt right. Like her muscles remembered something her mind couldn't hold on to. How to run when the world snapped open behind you. Still, the campus was too quiet. Sure, it was late, but even on the worst nights, there was someone. A smoker on a stoop, a drunk laugh echoing from the quad, the distant sounds of a party that shouldn't be happening at this hour. Anything. There was nothing. No witnesses, no help. Her tires hit the main road out of campus with a soft thud. The street stretched long and empty ahead, 10 miles of cracked asphalt and pine-shadowed edges leading toward town. This was always where she turned around, always her finish line, but her legs didn't stop pedaling. Her body had already decided. Halfway down the long stretch of road, she noticed its absence, an edge lifting off the surrounding air. No footsteps, no dragging shuffle. There was no twisted breath curling at her back. Mia glanced behind her. The road was empty. The campus behind her, swallowed, in the dark, gave no signs of movement. No shape in the trees. She could see nothing in the distance, no trace of him. Just the road, and her, and the sound of her own breathing. Still, she didn't stop. Her heart pounded, not with relief, but with a chilling apprehension. He should be there. He was only there moments ago. She should still feel him crawling up her spine, but now she felt nothing, and that wasn't better. If anything, it was worse. The night had grown too quiet, like the world had paused around her. She peered over her shoulder, scanning the woods. Still nothing, not even a flicker of motion, but the dread stayed lodged in her chest. She pressed harder into the pedals, pushing herself down the empty road toward town like speed alone could keep her safe. The streetlight ahead blinked faintly through the mist. Her legs burned, but she didn't let up. That weight, that offness, clung to her like static. The air didn't feel right. She didn't believe she had gotten away. Not really. It felt more like he had let her go. Or worse, he had gone nowhere at all. Mia gritted her teeth and focused forward, refusing to look back again. The wind whipped her face. The town buildings were visible, though still far. Signs, lights, shapes she recognized. She just had to make it a little farther. Just had to keep going. Then she saw something else ahead. A shape too far to distinguish. She squinted at it, trying to make sense of it. Her first thought was it had to be a car, but that made little sense. The lack of headlights was a dead giveaway. An animal, she reasoned next? That made more sense to her. The campus and its outskirts were crawling with wildlife. She'd seen plenty of deer and raccoons crossing the road at night. Still, the shape's movement caused her to hesitate. She brought her bike to a full stop in the middle of the road, underneath the streetlight. That's not an animal. Alarm bells went off in her body. The shape in the distance felt wrong. It was undeniably human. She noted it was coming at her, and it wasn't walking. It was sprinting towards her. She could see its arms flailing at its side, legs kicking out in grotesque angles, resembling a puppet controlled by crude strings. She didn't need to see his face to know it was him again. The dread spread throughout her body in an instant. She turned the bike around and launched herself off the asphalt, back towards campus. Her legs strained against the pedals, the chain rattling with each kick. She looked behind her. Just a glance. He was closer. Much closer than he should have been. He was gaining on her. His sprint was unnatural, not in form but in speed, like gravity didn't apply to him as it did for her. His limbs jerked through the air. His head didn't even bounce. It stayed affixed to her. She pumped the bike harder, faster. The tires skidded on the asphalt, and she heard footsteps behind her. Footsteps that were too fast, too loud, too close. She looked back and screamed. 10 feet separated them at most. She saw his face clearly. His mouth was gaping, and his eyes remained wide open. He looked like he was already tasting her scream. His arms reached out, extending itself too close to the ever-shortening distance between them. No, no, no. Almost reactionary to her thoughts, her legs found strength that she didn't know she had. With life hanging in the balance, she pedaled frantically. Something stiff brushed her neck, feeling as if he were grazing the air near her skin. Another scream escaped her lips. She could see the campus lights up ahead. She was close, but she knew she wouldn't make it, not with how unnaturally fast he was. She opted for a sharp turn, driving off the road into the grass. She heard him overshoot, a blur sprinting past where she had just been seconds ago. She glanced over at him. He'd stopped, but only for a moment. His head snapped toward her, gaze returning to her almost instantaneously. His body took a beat longer, turning, almost mechanically. What the fuck are you? Her thought hadn't even processed when she noticed he was running again, straight for her. There was no outrunning him. This much she understood. Her endurance had limits. Looking back toward the campus, she was near the west building, within easy reach. Using her remaining strength, she closed the distance. Her legs screamed. His footsteps were back, gaining, once again. The moment her bike hit the pavement, she flung herself off the bike and lunged for the side door of the west building. The bike crashed onto the ground as she pulled the door handle and shoved her way inside. To her surprise, a staircase, not a hallway, nor a room, greeted her. There was no place to hide on a staircase. Fuck. Her voice shot upwards, climbing the staircase before she had even made a step. Going up was her only option. She climbed the first set of stairs, taking them 2 at a time. Her heart pumped loudly enough to drown out her thoughts. She made it to the first floor and saw a door. She threw all of her weight on it, but it didn't even rattle. It remained frozen in place. She hit it again, but it refused to give. She was going to try again when she heard a slam coming from below. The side door had burst open. She didn't need to look back. She knew it was him. The hum's return eliminated any doubt. That same ragged, off-key tune she had heard before made its way up the stairwell, wrapping around her ears. She reached the second floor, only to find another locked door. Third floor, locked. Fourth, locked. Every door she tried was a dead end. She wondered if this was his doing. The stairs seemed to stretch on and on the higher she went, or maybe it was just her legs finally giving out. No matter how high she got, the hum only grew louder. She could feel him, not just behind her, but near her, close enough to whisper, "Don't look, don't look." She pushed herself up the rest of the floors, 5th, 6th, 7th, each one with a locked door, 8th, 10th, 12th, 14th. Finally, on this floor, a door gave way. Mia didn't bother to ask why. She just pressed on through. In a flash, Mia saw that the floor was unfinished. Wires, piping, and rusted scaffolding exposed the building's guts. Air from the outside flowed in through the gaps, through the holes where walls should be. The floor consisted of drywall and beams, tools hanging from hooks, and wind whistling through broken panes. Everything smelled of dust, metal, and something old. Mia ducked behind a jagged section of drywall, close to the edge of the building, trying to catch her breath, just for a second. Her legs trembled from exertion. The door to the 14th floor slammed open. The first thing she heard was that hum. It felt like it was doing its best to search for her. She remained crouched, unblinking, because she knew he was coming. Then silence, a pause, but not from hesitation. He was listening. Her breath felt too loud. She bit on her lip to stay silent. The footsteps came soon after, slow and deliberate. She could hear them echo across the floor, the way he dragged one foot behind the other, like he didn't even bother to walk human anymore. Mia clamped her hand over her mouth. Her breathing came in short bursts through her nose. Too loud, too loud. He passed right by where she hid and came to a full stop, his neck twisted toward her hiding spot. It made a loud crack as he did. He could smell her fear. His mouth curled, not wide like before, just enough to show that he knew she was there. He walked toward her with no uncertainty. He had already found her. Mia bolted. She needed to escape, far from him. She wasn't going to wait around for him to get her, but that's exactly what he wanted. She felt it before she noticed it. His hand clamped around her wrist and yanked her backward with an unnatural strength that sent her off balance. She gasped. Before she could cry out again, his other hand swiftly shot up and grabbed her face. Before she could even react, he slammed her body against a beam right up on the edge of the building. She could see down towards the ground below, 14 stories below. His fingers spread across her cheeks, his grip crushing, nails digging in, not just holding, but grasping, searching, like he meant to peel her apart. His thumb pressed into the corner of her mouth, stretching her skin tight. One jagged nail carved too deep, drawing blood. Mia thrashed, wild with panic, but his grip didn't loosen. His hands didn't shake. His eyes didn't blink. He leaned in close, breath humid and sour, filling her nose with the rot of something buried alive. His mouth opened. Sound came out, but it wasn't a voice. Not at first. The words were muffled and indistinct, like hearing someone speak underwater, each syllable slurring and warping into the next before collapsing in on itself. Despite that, she felt it, not in her ears, but somewhere deeper. He was trying to say something, over and over, distorted and broken.
Show me the Mia beneath the skin.
She tried to scream, but it barely escaped her throat. His nails scraped down her jaw, then along her cheek. A slow, trembling touch that felt like he was trying to unzip her skin. His eyes flicked, studying her face like it was a map he'd nearly memorized but needed to tear open to be sure. She lashed out, her feet connecting with a dull thud, her claws raking his flesh without effect. It was as if she were wrestling a statue. Her blood ran hot down her neck. She felt her skin give beneath the pressure of his grip. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, and he just kept speaking, kept trying.
Under skin.
There was no rage in him, no fury, just curiosity, a sick, terrible wonder. His grip tightened. Mia's vision doubled. Pain bloomed sharp and immediate where his nails bit deeper into her cheeks, where they hooked. His fingers, calloused and rough, grazed her skin. The damp, paper-thin surface stretched taut, as if he meant to pull it away. The world narrowed, not just from the lack of air, but from the hum which had swollen into a scream inside her skull. It pulsed behind her eyes, drumming in time with her heartbeat, syncing with it, controlling it. Her limbs flailed, but felt heavy now. Her body no longer belonged to her. Not fully. As his fingers traced her skin, she felt an unsettling invasion, as though he were reaching into her very mind.
Fathom me beneath.
He murmured again, voice splitting and folding over itself like a broken record, skipping on molten wax. His jaw opened wider than it should have, his teeth too many. Something black dribbled down from his tongue. It hissed as it landed on her collarbone, smoking faintly where it had touched skin. She screamed, but it came out in pieces, wet and pathetic, muffled by the pressure of his fingers curled around her jaw. Her face burned. She could feel her skin tearing now, fibers straining like seams, one eye blurred with blood. "Stop. Please. Please," she choked out, words intelligible. He tilted his head, a man inspecting a painting he wasn't sure was real. Then he pulled. A jagged, burning line tore down from her cheekbone. Not all the way, just enough to make her feel it, enough to make her understand what he wanted, what he needed. To open her, to see her, to know her. And there was no one around. No help coming, just the dark, just him, this thing wearing a body the way a child wears bed sheets and calls itself a ghost. Mia's legs gave out, but he didn't let her fall. He held her up, her limp form resembling a broken doll. Behind him, she saw something, shadows stretching the wrong direction, bending inward toward them, the night pulling in like lungs inflating. The hum turned to words. His words, echoing inside her head. "Who are you really?" Her blood ran cold, not from the question, but from the sense that he already knew her. Her body dangled, spine arched unnaturally, and blood smeared down her chin. The hum was in her teeth now, vibrating them loose. He was hoisting her again, adjusting his grip for something final. But her hand moved, not flailing anymore, searching. Instinct cut through the static. Her fingers slipped into her pocket, brushing past wrappers and lint and something wet she didn't want to think about. Until she felt something cold, something familiar. Metal. Her pocket knife. She clutched it tight. He lifted her higher, positioning her like a trophy, like something he meant to offer whatever void he'd crawled out of. She flicked the blade open with her thumb. It clicked loud in her ears. Louder than the hum. With everything she had left, every drop of fury, every scream she'd swallowed over the last God knows how long, Mia thrust upwards and drove the blade into his throat. "Fuck you," she screamed. Not from fear, not anymore. From rage. From defiance. From something that had survived. The blade cut deep. She felt it shear through flesh, scrape tendon, grind against bone. He jerked, head snapping back, mouth stretched wide in a silent gasp that never became a sound. His grip loosened, his eyes Those terrible, wrong eyes rolled and flickered like static. Black fluid erupted from the wound. It wasn't blood. It was too thick, too dark, and it hissed when it hit her hand like acid, burning through the skin in fast, angry blisters. But she didn't stop. She pushed harder, twisting the knife, driving it deeper until the hilt pressed against ruined flesh. The fluid splashed across her face, her hand, her chest. Whatever it was, didn't feel like it belonged to any living thing. It smelled like rot pulled from the bottom of a dried-up well. He released her. His hand snapped to his neck instead. Fingers clawed desperately at the wound, trying to hold in the torrent of thick, dark fluid that spilled between them. It didn't pour. It oozed. Mia dropped to the ground, coughing, her knees folding under her as she hit the drywall behind her. The impact rattled her bones, but it didn't matter. Wiping the gore from her eyes with her trembling hand, she saw him still standing, still watching. His face seemed to soften while his eyes, narrowed and glinting, remained fixed on her with a mix of recognition and rage. And beneath it all, that grin remained, still slapped on, still inhuman. And she had had enough of that, enough of him. A scream broke from her chest, torn from the raw center of her. Mia lunged. She slammed both palms into his chest, throwing every shred of her strength into it. Her vision sparkled at the edges, the world spinning, but she didn't stop. She shoved like it was the last thing she'd ever do. He stumbled backward, off balance, and then he went over. As his body plummeted through the night air, their eyes locked. Even now, hurtling toward the ground, his face remained devoid of any expression. He just watched her with the same soulless stare, as if this was only a slight inconvenience. But Mia, her face was far from blank. She stood up straight, her feet planted on the ledge, steadying herself on one beam. A slight curl played on her lips as she glanced down at him. It said everything she needed to. I won. You lost. Burn all the way down. His eyes widened, only slightly, but it was something. It showed the faintest crack in his perfect void of a mask. Mia looked away, avoiding the sight and sound of the impact. She exhaled and dropped her body on the ground. The tension in her body was letting go. She remained on the cold floor, seemingly forever. She stared at the ceiling, just breathing. "Fucking finally," she whispered, her voice hoarse. Eventually, Mia heard the wail of sirens, saw red and blue lights coming from below, and heard voices rising in the distance, the sounds of curiosity and investigation. Mia sat up, cracked her neck, and forced herself to stand, despite the pain in her body. Slowly, she made her way down the building. There was no need for her to run anymore. The commotion outside hit her like a slap to the face. There were police cars lining the road, a thick crowd murmuring and gasping. Everyone wanted a glimpse of what had happened. She had no intention of sticking around. But there, in between the forest of legs and a sea of faces, her gaze was drawn to the crumpled body lying on the sidewalk. He had become a crumpled, grotesque mess of limbs, all twisted at the wrong angles, and yet it wasn't that which caught her attention. No, it was his eyes. They remained open. She moved closer to double-check what she saw. They still clung to her, like he was still trying to haunt her even in death. "You don't get to look at me like that anymore," she said under her breath. Unlike him, she looked away. "Mia," a voice called out. She turned toward the sound of her name. Her heart stopped for half a second before she saw her. Priya, limping through the crowd, one side of her face swollen and blood dried at the corner of her mouth, but she was upright and moving. Mia rushed to her, catching her in a tight embrace that neither of them could hold without trembling. Priya sagged into her, still breathing hard. "You made it," Mia whispered. "So did you," Priya rasped, then added with a wry, pained smile, "You look like hell." Mia laughed. "Takes one to know one." Together, bruised and bloodied, and whole in all the ways that mattered, they stepped away from the chaos. No need to explain, no need to stay. They just walked. and neither of them looked back. A week had passed, or maybe longer. Mia didn't know anymore. Time had lost its sense of meaning. She was healing, on the outside at least. The scars on her face were fading, and her ribs still ached when she laughed too hard, which Priya had a habit of making her do. When brought in for questioning, she omitted some details, just enough to avoid thorough investigation. Priya was the only one who knew the full truth, the only one that would have believed her, without hesitation, of course, and for her, that was enough. The man, or whatever he truly was, had died from the fall. Today, she walked to her Theories of Evolution class, head up. She didn't need to eyed others defensively. The only thing was that she found herself rushing to class once again. "Thanks for that, Priya," Mia muttered under her breath as she made her way through campus. Priya had been crashing at her dorm since that night. She wasn't going to leave her alone, maybe ever again. And her idea of support, including disabling alarms and making pancakes, after noon. Mia found herself at the foot of the statue of the former headmaster. She remained disturbed by the way his eyes followed her every move. Mia stuck her tongue out at him. Then she continued, turning left toward the west building. She entered and made her way down the hallway until she found herself in front of room 1408 again. Mia hesitated. "It's over, remember?" she whispered to herself. "He's gone. You killed him." She took a deep breath, fixed her hair, and adjusted the hem of her black dress. She had to look good if she was going to be late. All eyes would be on her after all. She opened the door and froze. Every single head in the room, in perfect synchronization, turned to face her, like they had all been waiting for her to come in. No one spoke a single word. Mia felt like time had come to a standstill. Their expressions were all blank, but their eyes were wide. The same stare he bore, their mouths curled. The same smile he had on his face. Mia didn't breathe. A girl in the front row cracked her neck. The professor craned his neck, trying to get a clearer view of her. From the professor's mouth came not words, but a hum. The same hum he used to make. The same off-key tune. An icy dread seeped into her bones as the hallway seemed to stretch into an endless, shadowy abyss behind her. As Mia took one step backwards, every single person leaned forward in perfect unison. Their eyes locked on her, smiles widening. "No," she stammered out, her voice shaky. "No fucking way." She knew now it wasn't over. It had never been over. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and I want to give a shout out to my friend for giving me the honor of reading it. But that is all I have for you today, and until next time, my little horror fiends. You've been listening to Don't Whistle to the Wind, and as the tale ends, the candles have burned down to nothing, and the salt lines we drew have surely failed as the shadows have crept in. Don't let them catch you, and don't turn off the light.